Hello there everyone. Welcome to the session on HTTP for your web application. In this session, we'll understand why you want to use HTTPS over HTTP and how to migrate our application from old HTTP to new HTTPS connection. The application which uses HTTP protocol, it looks something like this. Browser highlights web application with HTTP protocol with not secure flag. So if I click over here, you can see your connection to this site is not secure. And by the time we complete this session, we will able to onboard this application to HTTPS. So application looks something like this. Chrome highlights HTTPS application with this lock like symbol. So if I click over here, you can see connection is secure and we have valid certificate as well. As you can see here, certificate is issued to domain webdevtoolkit.in and this is issued by Let's Encrypt. Issued on and expired on date also provided along with it. Using HTTP protocol is fine for development purpose, but for the production environment, you must use HTTPS connection. HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Protocol and HTTPS is Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, also called as HTTP over TLS or HTTP over SSL. HTTP uses clear text for communication between client and server, whereas in HTTPS, the communication protocol uses encryption for sending data to the server. So you might be wondering what is different between TLS and SSL. Actually, SSL was the original protocol that was used to provide encryption for HTTP traffic in the form of HTTPS. There were two publicly released versions of SSL, version 2 and 3. But both these versions have serious cryptographic weakness and you should no longer use it. For various reasons, the next version of protocol, that is SSL 3.1, was named as Transport Layer Security version 1.0 and subsequent versions are called as 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 and so on. Now let's see why we should use HTTPS over HTTP. Almost all communication on the internet happens over HTTP or HTTPS protocol. But when we try to connect any web application, communication does not happen between client and application server directly. It's handled by multiple third parties. Hence, anyone is sniffing on HTTP network traffic can intercept network traffic and cause various attacks. Example, steal users' credential, man-in-the-middle attack, session hijacking attack, protocol downgrade attack. And also, with HTTP, there is no way to guarantee that destination server is who they claim to be. Example, if someone is claiming to be examplebank.com, is he really examplebank.com? Even though attacks such as man-in-the-middle attack sound too complex, it's just a child's play. Thanks to the publicly shared Wi-Fi on cafes and other places, there is no way you can identify authenticity of these Wi-Fi and get one more hop on the internet to handle HTTP requests. Malicious users find your IP and he can easily change response or downgrade protocol, etc. Because the nature of HTTP protocol and data transfer, which are all clear text, and problem doesn't end here as our device automatically remembers connected network. So on next day when you visit cafe again, you will automatically get connected to the same malicious network. Because of this, HTTPS comes to rescue. If you onboard your application to HTTPS, all traffic is encrypted, so even malicious user get access to all transmitted data. He cannot make anything out of it. So does it mean just onboarding to HTTPS will keep our users from potential harm? Mostly yes, but there is one more edge case. We'll see how to work around it towards end of the video. In the world of HTTPS, everything happens with handshake. So from 5000 feet it looks like this. Client sends client hello to examplebank.com along with the client's random value and supported cipher suits. A cipher suit is set of algorithm that helps to secure network connection. After that, application server sends server hello and server's random value. Then sends certificate to the client for authentication and may request a certificate from client to validate client's identity. In cryptography, X509 is a standard defining format for public key certificates. These SSL certificates includes the domain name that certificate was issued for, which person, organization or device it was issued to, which certificate authority issued it, the certificate authority's digital signature, associated subdomains, issue date of certificate, expiration date of the certificate, and the public key. Then server sends server hello done message. This certificate authority needs to be from the entity whom browser trusts. Example, Let's Encrypt or Google Certificate Authority. Think it's like one close friend who says I trust this domain name. If browser is not aware of certificate authority who is signing our SSL certificate, then it will not proceed with HTTPS connection. After receiving certificate, client performs cert verify to check authenticity of received certificate. Once certificate is validated, browser and application shares additional information like pre-master secret, and session keys to establish secure and encrypted communication and start exchanging data. For this example, we are going to use Let's Encrypt Certificate Authority. Let's Encrypt uses ACME, that is Automated Certificate Management Environment Protocol, to verify you control the domain address without any human intervention. So you can safely use it for production environment application. In fact, many well-known organizations use it. Along with the Let's Encrypt, we will be using CertBot. CertBot is a native Kubernetes certificate management controller. It can help with issuing certificates from variety of sources such as Let's Encrypt, HashiCorp Vault, Venafi, a simple signing key pair, or self-signed certificate. It will ensure certificates are valid and up to date, and attempt to renew certificates at a configured time before expiry. Along with the Cert Manager, we will be using Ingress as well. Ingress is an API object that manages external access to service in the cluster. Ingress may provide load balancing, SSL termination, and name-based virtual hosting. You can think it as a better alternative than using load balancer. But in order for the Ingress resource to work, the cluster must have Ingress controller running, because unlike other type of controllers which run as a part of Kubernetes controller manager binary, Ingress controllers are not started automatically with the cluster. There are many vendors who provides Ingress controller, but we'll be using NGINX Ingress controller for this session. Let's get started with our lab session. I will be using this sample code which we created in our previous session, that is production deployment strategies for web application. So in that session we have discussed how to deploy our web application which is created using Spring Boot and Angular. You can find link of these courses in description box. So we'll be using same source code from that session, and this is very simple backend application which has only one REST API. So if I move to browser and perform localhost API resource, it returns hello web developer with some randomly generated ID. And of course, as you can see, this is not secure connection. So if I click on this eye icon, you can see here your connection to this site is not secure. So our goal is to secure this API resource. I will share GitHub link for this project in description box. You can check out that project, and whatever additional changes I will be doing, like adding new Kubernetes file, I will provide separate link for these files so that you can easily follow this session along. Let's get started with our Docker file. This is multi-stage Docker file. In first stage, we will use OpenJDK 13 as our base image. Copy our Maven W and Maven. After that, pom.xml and source folder. After that, perform clean install. Once Maven clean install is successful, we will have our jar file in this target directory. But this jar file has some files which are really not required to bootstrap our application. So what we'll do, we'll create one more directory called as dependency and extract all the jar file contents in that directory. So we can just pick up whatever contents we required for creating next image. In second stage, we'll create base image from the same OpenJDK 13 Alpine. You can use JRE also here. JRE will help you to reduce your final image size. So we'll start with copying these libraries which we have provided as a dependency. So we will copy that from boot inf lib to our app lib folder. After that, meta inf folder, and in the end we'll copy our classes also. So this contains all classes from our source code. After that, we provide starting point for application, that is backend, application. You can create Docker image by using docker build command, or as docker build -t image name and file. We can verify our generated image with docker image ls command. So as you can see here, backend image is created. So for this demo, I will be using Google Cloud component called as Google Kubernetes Engine. In order to push this image to our container repository, I need to tag this image with Google repository address. So I'll be doing that with docker tag command. So I am tagging here backend latest with Google repository information. So once this tagging is completed, you can again do docker image ls and see we just got new copy of the existing image with Google repository information. Then I can perform docker push and image name. Once this docker push is successful, after that you can see our image is appearing our container registry called as backend and version is v1. After this, we want to run our deploy job to deploy application. So we'll be walking through this kube deploy YML. And as you can see, our kind is deployment name is backend, and here few labels we have attached with our deployment. So these labels are app name, tier backend, and track is table. We want one replica of our deployment, and here are the container details like container's name is hello, and this is the image name, and image pool policy is always, so that whenever we do docker deploy, it will not use cached image and it will pull freshly from our container registry. We'll deploy this kube deploy YML file using Kubernetes command. So kubectl apply -f kube deploy YML. Once this deployment job is successful, you can move to our cluster and then go into the workload. There you can see our backend is appearing and status is okay and it is serving one pod. After this, we need one service to expose our this deployment. So there are three type of services in the world of Kubernetes. First one is cluster IP service, when you want to access the application within our Kubernetes cluster. After that, node port and load balancer service. So both of these provide access from external world to our application. And another way to expose our deployment to external world is using Ingress. As I mentioned earlier, in this session we will be using Ingress to expose our application. But in order to use Ingress, first we need to expose our application within our cluster. So for that purpose, we will be using cluster IP service. Let's get back to our code. And you can see here cluster IP service. Here we have provided name of the service and selectors. It's really important that these selectors must match with your deployment file. So as you can see here, this is app, hello, and tier backend. So this exactly matches with our deployment file. You can see here labels as app hello and tier is backend. So in order to execute this service, you can use the same command kubectl apply cluster IP service YML. Once this deployment is successful, if you go to our service and ingress tab, you can see our backend cluster IP service is up and running. At this point, our application is up and running and it is accessible within the cluster. And next, we want to expose this application to the external world using HTTPS protocol. So in order to use HTTPS, we need one static IP. So if you are also using Google Cloud, then you can just move to this VPC network tab. In that, one external IP address sub tab you can see. After that, you can click on this reserve static address. Provide here name, let's say any name. After that, use type as a regional, because in Google Kubernetes Engine, these regional IPs work with all Kubernetes objects. After that, select the region where your Kubernetes cluster is deployed. After that, click on the reserve. Once this reserve is successful, you will be able to see the name of your endpoint over here. external address assigned to is and region. And as you can see, type is static. After that, you can visit your domain name provider and register that static IP under DNS management system. So as you can see over here, I have added the register static IP in the value and record type is A. After adding these details, just give some time to reflect the changes. I think official time to reflect the changes is 24 hours, but in my case, I always observe that it gets reflected within 3 to 4 minutes of saving records. After some time, you can just call ping your domain name and you should able to see it's getting resolved to this IP address which you have reserved. After this, you need to install Helm in your local system. Helm is a package manager for Kubernetes. You can relate this package manager to something like Homebrew in the world of Mac OS or apt-get for Ubuntu or Chocolatey for Windows OS. If you are hearing Helm for the first time, don't worry about that. You don't have to invest so much time learning it because it's pretty easy, and using this tool makes a big difference in the world of Kubernetes because it eases your all the required dependencies. As I have mentioned in the earlier tutorial, we will be using Let's Encrypt, we will be using nginx ingress controller, we will be using certbot as well. So without Helm, it's really cumbersome process to install all these dependencies. Installing Helm is pretty easy. They have provided steps for each and every operating system, and you can even install from the script as well. So you can curl their script, change to executable file and install. Once this installation is complete, we'll get started with our first step, that is installing nginx controller. So for that purpose, you need to do helm repo add and these details. As for me, it is already present, so it is mentioning the same. After that, helm repo update. After this, we'll be installing our nginx ingress controller. So this is static regional address which we have already reserved. So you can find this static address from the same Google Cloud portal. So you can see here the external address, it will match with the load balancer IP address. After that, hit enter. Once this installation is successful, you can check with kubectl get service. You can see here quick start ingress nginx controller along with quick start ingress nginx controller admission. After this, we will be deploying our cert manager. So for that purpose, we will be using helm install command, your cert manager version and these installed CRDs as true. Once this installation is successful, you can execute kubectl get port namespace cert manager. So after that, you should able to see here three ports appearing. One is cert manager CA injector and cert manager webhook. After this, let's configure our Let's Encrypt issuer. For that, I have written one more file called as acme issuer YML. This file contains two issuer. First one is for staging and another one is for prod environment. It has other details as well, like the acme URL for Let's Encrypt, this email used for acme registration. I have kept this purposefully blank because we will be updating it before executing our deployment. After that, private key secret reference. If you don't find this file in source code, then you can just check the description box to find its gist link. First, we will export our email address. So this address will be used for acme registration. After this, we will execute our acme issuer YML. So if you recall, in acme issuer YML, we kept this email field as explicitly blank because we will be replacing that string in this command. So as you can see, we are seeing replace empty string for the email with whatever value we have exported. So you can see it created both the issuers. First is staging and another one is prod. You can check issuer status using command kubectl describe issuer and issuer name. So here we are checking for Let's Encrypt prod. As you can see, status is last registered email and URI, and you can see acme account registered. After this, only one component is pending, and that is configuring nginx ingress controller. This is ingress TLS YML. If you don't find this file in the source code, you can check the description box for its gist link, as this specifies the kind is ingress. After that, annotations. As I mentioned earlier that There are different vendors for ingress controller and we are using NGINX for this demo. So we use this annotation to inform Kubernetes that we want to use NGINX ingress controller. After that, here we have specified cert manager issuer. So we are directly connecting to Let's Encrypt prod. If you are using another issuer, that is Let's Encrypt staging, then you can update that name over here. After that, we have configured our backend. So this will be the default backend which we want to connect. And we have additionally provided some rules also. For example, if host is web development toolkit, then we forward all these calls to backend CIP service. After that, in TLS, we have specified what is the host name and what is the certificate name we want to use. So we'll use kubectl command to apply these file changes. Once this command gets successful, then we can check the certificate created using kubectl get certificate. So as you can see here, certificate is already created and cert manager takes all the responsibility of creating certificate, managing it and renewing it before getting expired. We can also check more details like describe secret. It gives details about key and cert as well. You can also describe certificate as well. So it gives all the information related to certificate. As you can see, certificate is up to date and has not expired. That's it. That's all we need to do to onboard our application to HTTPS. Now, if I move to the browser and access our resource, you can see here our application is secure now. And if I click on that, you can see connection is secure, certificate is valid. And if I click here for more details, you can see here issued to web development toolkit.in. After that, in details, you can see other details as well related to this certificate. If you want to trace TLS handshake, then curl command comes very handy. So if you do curl with -v, then you can see all the details over here which we discussed in earlier theory session. Like its client is initiating client handshake. After that, server is sending all the required data. And once everything is validated, then client sends cipher change notification and secured connection established between client and server. Also, along with providing HTTPS, NGINX controller provides one more benefit of HSTS. So what is this HSTS? HSTS is HTTP Strict Transport Security. This is a policy mechanism that enforces HTTPS usage. So if I press F12 and hit refresh and access this resource, you can see here strict transport security and maximum age and includes subdomains. So once any client, so in our example it is Chrome browser, receives this response header, then it understands that server accepts all the details in HTTPS protocol only. So what happens if we try to send any request in HTTP? So let's take one example. I will remove S from here and I will try to make HTTP call. Then it gets automatically redirected to HTTPS. You can see we are already doing HTTPS call. So because of this strict transport security header, any client or in our case it is browser receives strict transport security. From that point onwards, it will automatically transfer HTTP call to HTTPS. But what happens if user is first time connecting to this site? So for example, let me clear my browser cache and clear network call as well. Now, if I try to make HTTP call and hit enter, you can see here first HTTP call went. After that, we received 308 permanent redirect and new location, that is HTTPS. And browser automatically redirected to this HTTPS secure website. Do you remember in theory session when I have mentioned like HTTPS helps us from the stealing user credentials, man in the middle attack or session hijacking attack or protocol downgrade attack, but there is one edge case scenario for it, and this is what I was talking about. So if client is connecting to web server first time, at that time first call will go through HTTP connection. Server will get the request and he will respond with 308 status and new HTTPS link. After that, browser automatically redirects to that new HTTPS link. But hacker gets one minor window to perform any of these attacks. But there is a workaround for it. Let's see how we can handle this edge case scenario. So for this scenario, you need to take help from HSTS preload web application. So this web application tells the web browser that even if you are trying to connect for first time, use HTTPS protocol for this web application. And as you can see, it is supported by all major browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Opera, Safari, IE11 and Edge. So let's see how we can submit our new domain for preloading. So if I copy this web development toolkit.in, check HSTS preload status and eligibility. As you can see here, we are missing few of the parameters, like it is saying HSTS header should contain preload directive and it should have max duration for 1 year. So in order to fulfill this requirement, we will update our ingress resource. So this is our ingress TLS YAML. In annotation, just add these two new annotations like nginx ingress kubernetes io configuration snippet. Here we are setting additional headers called as strict transfer security. Max age is 2 years, include subdomains and preload. After this, deploy this ingress resource. After this, if you visit HSTS preload application again and perform check eligibility, you can see now our application is eligible for preload. Just select these both checkboxes and submit web development toolkit for HSTS preload list. Once you submit this request, as we have highlighted earlier, all major browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Edge or Safari or Opera, they will start using HTTPS for your web application even if client is accessing it for very first time. So you are securing your users even in a minor window where hacker can potentially exploit your application. So that's how easy it is to start using HTTPS for your web application. Concept we learned in this session not only secure backend component but front-end component as well. You can follow any of my production deployment strategy which we have learned in our previous session. So in previous session, we have understood two production deployment strategy. That is first with nginx. You can find its source code in nginx frontend, and another is to deploy application as a single unit. I have added link for the session in description box. In these examples, we have used load balancer to expose our service. But for HTTPS, we want to use ingress. So after completing these tutorials, delete load balancer using kubectl delete -f kube load balancer service YAML. Once you apply concept which we have learned in this session, you will able to onboard your front end as well to HTTPS connection. So as you can see, our web application is also onboarded to HTTPS connection. And if I click on this lock icon, then you can see connection is secure and certificate is valid. That's all for this session. Thank you for watching. And your feedback is very important to me. I use your feedback to improve each one of my upcoming courses. So please be sure to take few moments out to provide constructive feedback in comment section. Also, please feel free to ask any question if there is something in course you didn't understand or need more clarification. If you find this session valuable, please do subscribe and share with your friends. Thank you.